Hi, it's Joe Weinberg, Bluebird Semaphore, and I'm going to do a world history for ordinary people. I think it's going to be 25B. And the reason why I'm doing this is because a couple of rainforest things cropped up over the past 48 hours. And as I said, I want to mention whenever I come across something that's a negative impact on the rainforests. And other than that, I really didn't have much new material to present. But let me just make sure that one thing I think I already hit on, I'll just go over that to make sure we got that. And basically, it's a piece of information about Hawaii and the early industry over there in the 1800s, 19th century, maybe a little earlier. But the Hawaiians were supplying sandalwood primarily to China. It was a trade commodity. So the sandalwood would go to China, and then other things would come back from China. Some of them stopping in Hawaii, and then Hawaiians using that for trade with California. And the sandalwood, I mean, every wonderful tree that's ever been grown or grows on this planet, as soon as the humans get a sniff of it, they exploit it. And that's what they did with the sandalwood. And so I think I mentioned it in a previous discussion, but just to be sure. And I think I also mentioned, I got to call it hideous way they collected it. Basically, they would burn the forest, and then the sandalwood, they could smell the stands of sandalwood, and they go in there and cut them down. So there was two things going on. They were burning the forests, and they were cutting down the sandalwood trees. Now, from what I know, a lot of Hawaii is not luscious vegetation, which begs the question, how much of that absence of luscious vegetation is due to the collecting of sandalwood? I don't know the answer. The answer can probably be found somewhere. But there's nothing the humans hate more than a tree. A tree is in their way. So, what can you say? Now, the other thing about rainforest that came up was 2 days ago, a president was being inaugurated in Brazil, and it was mentioned that his biggest, hardest problem to solve in his new regime, this new presidency, was going to be to how to deter the folks chopping down the rainforest, the Amazonian rainforest in Brazil. How are they going to stop them? I mean, they got all the laws in the world on the books. Doesn't prevent anything. They go in there and they chop and they chop at an outrageous rate. I mean, literally thousands of acres a day of the rainforest are being annihilated. I believe it. That whatever I've seen, these not graphs, but images, much like you would see on a map, of Brazil and the Amazon region, and they call it Amazonia. And they point out how much of the original rainforest is gone and how much is left. Well, you'll get two takes on that. One, they'll say, "Oh, there's plenty of rainforest left," and you'll get the other take is that so much of it has been annihilated, and so much of it is still being annihilated that there's no hope. Now you got to remember that that's, I believe, the primary source for oxygen on Earth, the Amazonian rainforest, and we're cutting it down like there's no tomorrow. So if you want to make sure in that disaster bunker you're building in your backyard out there in Kansas or Iowa, make sure you got a couple of tanks of oxygen, because you're going to need it. Now, so that's what I wanted to say, those two things. Let me just see if I can bring to mind some of the stuff I'm gathering from reading about Hawaii. Hey, I'm going to say right off the top, and I think I mentioned this in the last one, is that I wasn't sure about Michener and his book Hawaii, but I'm starting to get the idea, the opinion, that Michener was fairly true to the historical record of what went on in Hawaii early on and continuing on into the present century. I see a lot of relevance and a lot of going in the same direction. Michener and the fellow, the book I'm reading, Anatomy of Paradise, the Hawaiian Islands and the Islands of the South Sea. That's the whole title of the book. And that book is nothing but facts and a true explanation. I believe what he's telling us is the truth of what went on over there. Between the missionaries, the traders, the sea captains, the whalers, the militaries, the various countries, Britain, France, United States, Germany, all this. And so he seems to be telling it like it really was, and it's like nobody really cares what the history of Hawaii is or was. The general population, all they care about Hawaii is that they, sometime in their lives, get the mandatory 2-week vacation in Hawaii. That's all they care about. They come home, they tell all their friends, I went to Hawaii, it was so wonderful, so wonderful. That's all they care about. How, the history of Hawaii, the history of those people that were there before us is of no consequence. Nobody cares. And the sad part of it, or not sad, because it goes on everywhere, is that in order to make that sugarcane and that pineapple crop work, which is essentially what the white people brought and made so that they could turn a profit out of their efforts in Hawaii, pineapple and sugarcane, they had to import labor. Isn't that the case everywhere throughout history? One strong boss, subjugating some other people and bringing them to work. You go back to the pyramids. I think you can go back to the mines in England. You can go anywhere on a planet and you'll find the subjugation of people for labor, manual labor. And the interesting fact is that they first, in order to get this manual labor, there was a little delicate problem with using the Chinese, because the Americans, particularly California, had already put a law in the book. You can't use Chinese, because they found when they had used them for the railroads, it was a problem, because they would stay and then the local cities and villages were swamped with Chinese, and they didn't want that. So they put laws on the books disallowing allowing immigration from China. Now, at the time, Hawaii was betwixt and between being annexed to the United States. So the Senate, that would be our Senate, and our Congress, had to dilly-dally. They couldn't make a choice because they very well could have made the wrong choice. If they say annex, and then everybody found out that we weren't going to get the labor to turn Hawaii into a profit center because we didn't have the labor, so they were hemming and hawing, and they wouldn't commit. But what they did is they started to turn to different people, and I was pretty much taken aback when I read in this book that the first people they went after were the Puerto Ricans. Oh my God, does anybody not want the Puerto Ricans? I mean, everywhere you go. I mean, I grew up in New York City. I mean, there's Puerto Ricans all over the place, and I would hear in the background that these people were all brought in because to solve labor problems. However, it didn't solve anything because they were not the right choice for the type of work that was needed in the Philippines. So the next they turned to what's lovingly referred to is our little brown brothers, and those would be the Philippines. And they worked out just fine. And after the Philippines, it was the Japanese. And they didn't do too bad either. So the labor problem was solved. And eventually Hawaii did get annexed. And then eventually, statehood. The guy's writing the book in the late 40s, very late 40s, and statehood is very much on the docket for the U.S. Senate and Congress. And I know when I was in grammar school, which would be the mid to late 50s, that Hawaii becoming a state was a big deal. That's what I remember. So there you go. You have all of this. Now, the book is supposed to also cover some of the other islands of the Pacific. And we haven't got around to that yet, but I'm looking forward to that, very much so. And that's what I have for you today, I think. I just wanted to make sure that those two instances of rainforest devastation has been at least put on this video file and up on Bluebird Semaphore, so that maybe a couple people see it. I don't expect a lot of great shakes and infamous notoriety based on this, because basically the world's population has, in the recent years past, they've all noted that, yeah, we have a big problem with killing all our forests. They were, major parts of the world were deforested years ago. Greece, the Sahara Desert, the Great Plains in North America, all this has gone on for years, and it's still going on, and recently people started to pay attention, but that's it, they're not paying attention anymore. They can't fix it. They can't fix it because there's too much money behind those products. Too much money. You cannot get around the money. It's all there is to it. If you see something out there you want to campaign and crusade against, find out who's behind whatever it is that you're crusading. Find out their money stream. If it's huge, don't bother, because you ain't going to fix it. And at very best, the countries and the medias will make false advertisement that these problems are being fixed. But they're not. All you need to do is go around your neighborhood, see all the clear stripping that's going on, and you know that nobody's paying attention. They've given those industries a pass. And whatever you're getting from the governments, the advertising, it's just fluff that they're dangling in front of the masses to keep the masses quiet. Because I'm pretty sure that if the masses knew that their last breath was going to be snuffed out of them, they'd be a little upset. But, you know, we say, oh, it's working, this is working, that's working. We're cleaning the oceans. The ocean's another vital source for oxygen. There's a millimeter skin of algae, one-cell animals, plants, one-cell plants, along the surface of the ocean. And that is mucho oxygen producing. But unfortunately along came oil to put another little skin on top of the ocean, and that oxygen producing characteristic of the oceans of the world is in doubt, to say the very least. But what isn't? What isn't? The fishing, it seems to be gone. But on the other hand, that aquaculture, whatever it is, some of that stuff is working. It's working very well. Mostly with shellfish, I think they do well, and like oysters and clams, mussels. What else? Listen, you gotta have some hope, and some belief that this world is going to live and it's going to not get extinguished. But the things are crumbling all around, and it's not a high priority for most anybody, as far as I can tell. I see a few people who might be concerned about things like clear stripping and open mine pits, overfishing, continuation of whaling, which is such a well-known, inhuman, activity. I mean, these are mammals, they're like 98% like us, and we're out there killing them, butchering them, burning them, and that's it. And nobody's going to really ever win that, because the money, and in this case with the whales, the countries, talk Japan, talk Norway, are putting up every ounce of resistance against that, doing anything to hold back the amount of whaling that goes on. So when you see the whaling festival in your seashore vacation spot, boycott it, okay? Just boycott it. Don't go living in the make-believe dream world of Moby Dick and the Essex and all that stuff. Fine tales though they may be, 10 years before the mast, so on and so forth. Fine stories though they may be, there's nothing there for you to give your okay to. Got to stay away from that stuff. You can't support it. You can't. Whatever happened to Greenpeace? 10 years ago, every night on the nightly news, they were bumping off a whale ship, a factory fishing ship. They were doing that every week on the daily news. Now you don't hear about them at all. Where'd they go? What happened to them? Greenpeace. It's a sad world. Sad. I lived a great deal of what I'm going to live, and fortunately, I still see trees and things like that. But I wouldn't want to be around 30 years from now. Definitely, I don't want to be around 50 years from now. You know, first of all, the engineering, bioengineering that's going on is going to make, to me, intolerable, amoral behavior being the guiding light of civilizations. And when that happens, kiss everything goodbye. The world you know, kiss it goodbye. Now, it's just, and the major league attempt to get everybody on board with this, going in this, artificial intelligence arena, going into away from nature arena. Nature is the boogeyman now, and you better believe that. Nature is the boogeyman, and I don't care how many advertisements you see to go on a vacation to some wonderful, wonderful natural paradise. That's not where they're taking you. Those vacations are going to take you to some urban slum pushed up against a piece of water. That's what they're going to do. Nature is the boogeyman. Nobody wants to take you to nature. And most people don't want to go to nature anyway. And they're not going to shell out buku bucks to go to nature. Basically, they hate nature. If they had to deal with nature on a daily basis, they would drop dead. Be too much of a task for them. These people that we hear all the time, well, even that's changing. I was going to say the ones that live off the grid. You know, they have a hard task. They live a hard life. But even that, you see it all the time. And the mechanized machines to augment their ability to stay out in the wilderness is taking over. And they're making, I mean, you can live out in the wilderness now and you can have all the delights of a suburban home. Okay? Now, do I want to make those people less than happy and comfortable? No, I don't. But stay happy and comfortable in an existing suburban area and don't go out into the wilderness and turn the wilderness into the next suburban area with its crime, with its drugs, with all those things that come with suburbia and urban. But, whenever I read about things that have to do with Alaska, and you read in Anchorage, you're always reading about the major social problems they have in Anchorage. This is not a paradise. Not at all. And then the people have been up to their eyeballs with what's going on in the crowded places, and they try to move out into the wilderness, and then in 10 years, they've had enough, and they're bringing in all the accoutrements of civilization. It's just not what we think it is, and perhaps not what many people wanted the wilderness to be. One of my favorite ecologists is a guy named either Leopold Adler or Adler Leopold. I think it's Leopold Adler. Brainy guy, big brainy. And, he fought hard and fast to save wilderness type environments. And the Congress brought him in to testify. It was on a Save the Grizzly Bear, Save the Grizzly Bear kind of hearings. And he came in and he didn't tell them what they wanted to hear. He told them, he says, listen, you're trying to save the grizzly bear. I forget where they were trying to save him. The habitat. I forget if it was up in Alaska or in Montana and Colorado, Rocky Mountains, who knows. And this guy, Leopold Atlas, says, you know, I'm not really supporting what you're trying to do. What I want you to do is make the habitat where people, humans live, make that a natural wilderness supporting environment. That's what I want you people to do. And you know what? Never heard from him again. You know, he was banished. And I'm making that up. But as far as I'm concerned, he was probably banished. As anybody who speaks their mind. And it's right. And it's not, towing the line. I don't know whatever happened to, what was her name? Silent Spring. What was her name? Rachel Carlson. Whatever happened to her, you got to toe the line. You got to speak this, what they want you to say. Otherwise, you're out of here. If all the right people had their way, we would not be in the situation and situations that we're in today. We're in horrible, horrible situations in every aspect of the human character, whether it's social, whether it's biological, material, mental, spiritual. Every aspect of the human condition has been weakened, is continuing to be weakened, and soon will be in the muddiest of muck, more so than we've ever seen throughout history. But I think that's exactly what the powers to be are gunning for. That's what they want, and that's what they're going to get. Well, that's enough preaching. I can stop preaching now. It's a very long video, 27 minutes. That's too long. Bye.